So a while ago I had this idea to write a story, and after some weeks I finished the first chapter. But I wasn't sure it was any good, so I kinda gave up on it. I had the idea to post it here, so I would like it if you took the time to read the chapter and give me some critical feedback on how it was. The story was supposed to be called When Worlds Collide. First chapter called Lost in Darkness. Darkness, it was the only thought that could escape my head. That was all it was, just complete and utter darkness, an endless abyss where no thought could escape its grasp. It was inescapable and limitless. The kind of darkness that if I held my hand right in front of my face there would be no evidence that it was there. Well, that was if I could move my hands, or if I had hands, which I had no clue if I did. I couldn't feel anything. I was just a loose consciousness floating around in an endless abyss of pure nothingness. I couldn't tell if I was stationary or flying through this place at light speed. Nothing changed, there was no hint of a flaw in this eternal void. Trying to think of why I was in this predicament brought to my attention my memories or the lack thereof. I couldn't remember anything. I knew nothing of myself, not even my own name. My head was a blank space filled with concepts that had no meaning to me. What should have been a scary thought instead left me feeling empty as I floated around in this place. I felt nothing. I saw nothing. I heard nothing. I smelled nothing. I am nothing. Was I ever anything? Will I ever be anything? Those were questions I couldn't answer, at least not now anyway. All I could do was wait and hope that maybe something would change. Damn. What felt like hours or even days would go by as I slowly started to spiral into inner turmoil. It was inexplicably boring and left me with nothing to do but think as I let my fantasies go wild. I had come up with many different reasons for how I ended up in this place. Was I hit with a magic spell and placed in this void for eternity? Could I be in a type of jail? What could I have done to be put in jail? Maybe I was dreaming? As my thoughts continued to imagine all the possibilities my compromised mind could think of, it kept on finding its way back to one oddly specific, but utterly terrifying thought. Was I dead? I didn't think I was, but I couldn't have been. I was probably just transported to a magical world filled with wonder and excitement. Yeah, that was it. Definitely. It is what made the most sense, at least, right? The concept of time eventually lost its meaning to me. My fantasies ran dry, as well as my thoughts, and all that was left to do was to wait. Wait for something to change, but change started to just become another fantasy for me to fill my thoughts with, which soon exhausted itself like all the others before it. I even decided to start counting, but after reaching a number so high that I didn't know the name of, I gave up. But after what could have been many years but felt like multiple lifetimes, a change finally occurred. It was small at first, only a tiny white speck my non-existent eyes were inescapably drawn to, though after years of only the true nothingness of this void, it was exhilarating. The speck, to my utter amazement, slowly grew. The pace at which it grew was superbly slow, but my patience was on another level. and after what felt like a few days it grew into a ball the size of what I'd imagine my head would be. It stopped. It stopped for only a second, but it was the longest second that I had ever felt. But before I could even figuratively voice my disappointment, it exploded. White engulfed my entire being. It was instantaneous, but it was neither painful nor pleasant. I couldn't feel anything. I didn't know what was happening, though I wasn't scared either, just curious. As the light slowly started to fade away and I was suddenly overwhelmed by new sensations as I started feeling something hard beneath me. It was solid, but my fingers could move through it fairly easily. Pain flooded my being. Receiving the multitude of different noises and sensations quickly overwhelmed my mind, and I ended up passing out. When I came to, my eyes slowly opened, giving me a headache, but I couldn't help except ignore it as the world in front of me unfolded in my vision. It was magical. After spending years in isolated solitude and nothingness, the cloudless all-encompassing sea of blue interrupted by the radiant warm yellow blob that hurt to look directly at. I was laying in an opening of a forest surrounded by giant brownish-red trees, with long streaks running through them, that stood proudly as if they had done so for thousands of years. They expanded upwards into a luscious green canopy that blocked most of the sunlight, letting only a few rays seep through. On the forest floor, there was a copious amount of different flora that created a unique and sustainable environment. The forest was full of life as the sound of many different birds and small animals reached my ears to play the peaceful song of the forest. It was extraordinary. What was supposed to be a peaceful and relaxing sight for all sent me into a frenzy of unprecedented new heights. Everything was all exhilarating. My heart and mind soared through highs and lows as I inspected the brilliance of my surroundings. I could have stayed like this forever, but alas, it wasn't meant to be, as my mind was consumed by all the emotions that were bottled up during my stay in the abyss. It was like a tidal wave smashed, rupturing my skull. I squeezed my eyes shut to stop them from falling out. I felt everything from fear, regret, confusion, anger, loneliness, hopelessness, and everything in between all at once, with each emotion hurting worse than the last. I crawled up into a fetal position and laid there, waiting for it to end. I didn't know how long it lasted, but when it was over, the sun had traveled quite a substantial amount. Placing my hands under me to push myself up, I felt the puddle of sweat, tears, and drool mixed together on the forest floor under me. I calmed down and tried to look at the situation I was in with a clear mind. I didn't know where I was or why I was there, but I wasn't worried. I guess ignorance is bliss. Looking around, feeling my parched throat, I knew needed to find some water. I slowly got up, but instantly fell again as I lost balance before even getting halfway up. I crawled to the nearest tree and slowly got up again, using it to help keep my balance. I felt lightheaded at first, but when it subsided, I used my new vantage point to observe my immediate surroundings and evaluate what I should do. After pondering, I settled on a few things. I came to the conclusion that I needed food, water, and shelter if I wanted to survive. As far as I knew there was no one around me, so I was on my own for now. Looking down, I saw an oddly straight stick, It was about half my length, so when picking it up I first noticed how unassumingly light it was. It was extremely light, but I could feel that it was very sturdy. I used it as a walking stick as I left the support of the tree next to me, and I explored the area near the opening in the forest, staying within eye distance from it, not wanting to get lost. After a while, I could walk properly without the need of assistance, though I kept hold of the stick as it made me feel safer. There was something wrong about this place. I didn't realize it at first because I thought I was just scared to be in an unknown area, but now I knew something was up. Somewhere deep inside me was unsettled. Creepy. Creepy indeed. I found a sharp rock and attempted to sharpen one edge of the stick to make a spear. Though when I placed the rock on the wood, fully intending to shave some of it off, the rock would not budge. Is the wood strong, or am I too weak? I thought. No matter how hard I tried, the stick remained pristine, and I eventually gave up. Shifting my attention back to the forest, I could hear what seemed to be the sound of flowing water. A river? Well, maybe, but it was enough for me to plan my next move. I returned to the opening, walked up to the puddle I made earlier on, and looked at the reflection staring back at me with confusion. It felt like I was looking at a stranger. Granted, I had no clue what I looked like before. But looking at myself now, I couldn't recognize anything. Everything about myself felt foreign. My skin was pale, with long messy auburn hair. My eyes were glowing emerald green. I had a round face with slightly puffy cheeks, no facial hair even though I looked to be around 19 years old. My body was frail, with almost no muscle, and while looking at myself I finally realized that I had no clothes on, so I resorted to running around looking for something to wear, having no real idea why I was embarrassed. I ended up using some giant leaves from a random plant on the forest floor, tying them together with some vines growing on some of the trees. I had made some shoes to protect my feet and pants to cover up my crown jewels. With my mind clear, my outer garments in order, and my makeshift weapon hopefully to protect me from any wild animals in order, I was finally ready to make my way across the forest and find the river I hoped would be there.